Greetings from the evening, everyone. Before the video starts, I just want to say that this is going to have spoilers for some of the final things in FNaF World. It's not going to hold back on spoilers for that. If you don't care, good on you, and I hope you enjoy. But if you do care, I'll give you these next 5 seconds to go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. That's all. I hope you enjoy the video. I love FNaF World. I say that's probably the most underrated FNaF game. Hot take, I guess. Although it's not the most balanced of games, and definitely could be a bit harder, it's good. It has a unique character unlock system, a lot of satisfying to use moves, and chips and bites which are fun to try out. Seriously, I love it. And the best part of all, fishing! Seriously though, FNaF World is great. For the most part, anyway. There are definitely some issues, mainly in balancing, like I mentioned before. And I don't mean moves like the Bite family, Bite, Toxic Bite, Bite 2, Toxic Bite 2, Mega Bite, where Bite 2 is a direct upgrade of Bite, Mega Bite is a direct upgrade of both, and Toxic Bite 2 is a direct upgrade of Toxic Bite. That's not really an issue, because those moves getting more powerful is like a form of progression. It makes sense, and it lets you feel like you're actually getting more powerful over time. It works, and is overall a pretty good system, I'd say. But that's not where the imbalance ends. Not even close. Before we get into that, though, we should talk about lateral progression. First of all, I don't know if this is actually a widely used term or not, but I did hear it in a conversation about Dungeons & Dragons once, so I'm using it now. Basically, lateral progression is, as the name suggests, sideways progression, if you will. Basically, that means that instead of an increase in numbers directly, you get a secondary utility effect. So this is basically the opposite of linear progression, where your main measures of power will increase. In the case of FNaF World, that would be damage and healing, and also health, I guess, but, that's not as important, partially because of what we're talking about today. That is, though, if a character does more damage than another, or it heals the party more than another, it'll generally be better than the other. With lateral progression, though, this is not that simple. Secondary utility effects tend to retain their usefulness for longer times than the ever-changing main ones. For an example, here, let's take a look at Phantom Freddy. Phantom Freddy doesn't have any damaging or healing moves. By linear progression standards, this means that he sucks. I mean, no damage, no healing. That's a recipe for disaster, right? I'm sure you already understand that I'm about to say, no, it's not. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that Phantom Freddy is actually pretty good, all things considered. This is mainly because his moves, rather than doing direct damage or directly healing your party, it'll debuff the enemies as a utility effect. With his moves Gloom Song, Sludge, and Rainy Day, he can reduce enemy damage, speed, or defense respectively. I can't find the exact values of these debuffs, but it's pretty safe to say that the moves are pretty useful throughout the whole game, which is probably partially because I believe they're percentage based, at least to a degree, especially with Sludge, which slows down the enemy. Slows down the enemy from doing moves. In my occasional observations of Phantom Freddy, it does seem like the defense and damage debuffs can fall off a little bit near the end of the game, especially the defense debuff, but, that's partially just because of the fact that, like, the amount of health and damage bosses have and do gets insane later on, so, to a point, even if it does a lot, it can't fully save you or make your damage that much higher. Generally, this is the case for most of the utility moves. Moves like Speed Song, Neon Wall, Water Hose, and Birthday can be pretty solid choices even near the end of the game. Some of them do fall off, like some of the debuff moves, but they end up being pretty powerful, and they give roles to characters which otherwise would be pretty meh, and they allow those characters to be used in a lot of different parties, which is cool. It's interesting. It's fun. Seeing how moves interact with each other and like how they synergize is awesome, and it is my favorite part of FNaF World. Other than the nostalgia maybe. But unfortunately, because of one particular move, this aspect of the game doesn't get that much time to shine. And, well, you already know what we're talking about here, but I'll give a short explanation for those of you who don't. Gift boxes is basically an alternative healing move. Rather than healing the party directly by just like increasing their current health, it actually revives dead party members to full health. Alone, this is already a really strong effect, and it can have awesome interactions with builds that focus on playing the long game. I mean, imagine having like your one damaging, like main damage character go down. It's like, oh, that sucks, but I have someone with gift boxes so I can revive them. That could be cool. Unfortunately though, that's not all, and this is where things get pretty broken. On top of this already pretty strong effect, any character which is alive will also get a gift box. This means that if they die, they then get automatically revived. And this is what breaks the game. This is what makes gift boxes so utterly broken to the point that it is by far the strongest move in the game. Luckily, it can't stack, so no character will be able to have multiple revives stocked up at once. But honestly, it doesn't really matter. The fact that every character can instantly go to full health is already super overpowered. To explain, here's an example. Let's say you're fighting a boss who, not including gift boxes, could present a pretty reasonable challenge. It attacks fast enough and does enough damage to slowly whittle down your party's health. Luckily though, you prepare for this with some nice healing moves which keep you up, a good chunk of damage to help help whittle down its health, and a couple bits of utility on top of that. So you have a pretty good party dynamic. And whether you win or lose, how the fight goes has a lot to do with your strategy and the synergy of your moves. There's tension and it's fun, right? Now, alternatively, imagine the same boss, but you have gift boxes. Frankly, in this case, there is no reason from a power building perspective to not just spam gift boxes and then do whatever damage you want alongside that. There's no synergy, there's no complex strategy, it's just gift boxes over and over again. That's not fun, right? There's no tension, there's no struggle with an ultimate hurrah when you actually beat it. There's no celebration to be had. And because of that, the game is balanced with gift boxes in mind. Rightly so. If one move made the game so trivially easy, it would be boring. But that doesn't really fix the issue. I mean, sure, gift boxes isn't just an insta-win button necessarily, but now that all the bosses are so much stronger, it ends up being more like a necessity than just an insta-win button. Something you kind of have to use to survive. When bosses can one-shot party members or do hundreds of damage to all of them at once, gift boxes is basically a requirement. Take Security Owl, which is a boss that can do upwards of 700 damage in one hit. Given, with a lot of defensive buffs and a damage debuff on it, like with Random Freddy from before, it can actually get fairly survivable. But even so, this doesn't negate the fact that using gift boxes is just better. Not only is it more reliable, but you only need one character to get its effects, rather than one or maybe even two characters alongside some chips and bytes. So it ends up using less of your resources. And for a boss like Scott Cawthon, who can dish out similar damage at a faster rate and use the fourth wall on top of that, not using gift boxes ends up being a huge challenge. Trust me, I've tried. Not that challenge is a bad thing, obviously, it's fun, I love challenge, but having your characters oftentimes one-shot or comboed to death can make the fight really annoying to try over and over again to beat. It really gets repetitive. Again, trust me, I've tried. It took a while, and then I gave up because of how long it was taking. I have more useful uses of my time. And that right there is the problem. At the end of the game, not using gift boxes makes the game way too difficult to reasonably be done without either a ton of leveling to increase the health of your characters or a lot of luck. And side note, I do know that you can unscrew Scott, so I get that. But that is really RNG heavy, you know, like I mentioned with luck, and also only one specific strategy, so it doesn't really mean much if that's the only like super viable strategy outside of that. And so at that point, you might as well just use gift boxes. Because why not? It's better, it is more reliable, it uses less resources, so there's not much of a reason to use anything else unless if you're trying to challenge yourself. But even that doesn't really solve the problem. When you have gift boxes, there's very little threat of even Scott beating you. When your characters can reliably just revive on death, the only chance you have of losing is when a fourth wall and a normal hit chain in one-shots on your gift boxer, and to be clear, that's pretty rare. But if you have two characters with gift boxes, even that is not really a threat. And there is alarm, I guess, but if you're not using Neon Wall consistently and or you don't have the Neon Wall chip, you kinda open the door for alarm to wipe your team. Although honestly, I would believe the possibility that that couldn't really even beat you with two gift boxers. And another side note, I do also think the Neon Wall semi-requirement is an issue, but I don't think it's as bad with gift boxes, so meh. It's also not the focus of this video, at least. So, at this point, gift boxes is not only practically required because of the balancing around it, with bosses being more powerful, but also still really powerful after that balancing, to the point where the game ends up being pretty easy with it in mind. The only thing that really continues to be a threat when gift boxes is in play is Chica's Magic Rainbow. But honestly, that fight just works really differently from most of the others, and I think it has some of its own issues separately anyway, so I'm not really going to talk about that in this video. But because of how powerful gift boxes is, it ends up making it hard to find fun, unique builds which stray from that repetitive revive and damage cycle that is so prominent in the game. There are some ways to go around it, sure, but the only two I can think of are insta-kill moves, which I talked about before. It's super RNG heavy and just also kind of difficult to pull off. Or going full tank, you know, making your damage secondary, having all the defensive buffs, damage debuffs, so you know, you're playing the long game, you're slowly chipping down his health until you win. But even then, at that point, there's a lot more chances for bosses like Scott or Security Owl to sneak in a kill every now and then, because that would take so long, because you need upkeep on all of your defensive things. And it can take a lot of work to stack up those buffs as well. You have to farm for the money to get those bites that block damage. You have to get the armor from the blue endo. You have to get the characters who have those debuffs and buffs, and you have to be able to upkeep those for however long the fight might take, which can take a while. And even when you do that, there's a decent chance that you'll just lose anyway because you get unlucky. Security Owl can do a lot of damage even when debuffed. I've seen a time recently where I was going basically full tank, and one of my characters took almost 500 damage, which sure is survivable with some of the best characters if they're leveled up enough, but a boss like Scott Cawthon can chain hits together, which each do a few hundred damage, and if he rolls high on both, you could just lose a character, and that could be one of the most vital parts of your strategy, and you can just die because of it. When gift boxes is basically a necessity to win in any reasonable amount of time, there is no point in choosing anything else. There's no point in trying to make fun builds which let you synergize characters together and make your own path. Sure, you can try making it for some of the easier bosses, and that can be fun, but in reality, chances are it just won't work to beat the game. And maybe beating the game isn't everything, but it's still a form of progression. It's still a reward for finding your way through a tough challenge that pushed your limits. It's still a way to look back on what you were able to overcome in the face of something that might have seemed insurmountable at first. But not anymore, because gift boxes runs the show. Because gift boxes almost forces you to walk one particular path. And while that path might be fun at first, it seriously blocks the potential of so many other possible strategies. And that is why I don't like gift boxes. I've tried a lot of times to come up with unique strategies for FNaF World, but I just couldn't, because when the moves get really, interesting and able to be put together for synergy, gift boxes is also in play. And when a game like FNaF World isn't that long anyway, you can't really have a build go for more than a little bit. And then gift boxes is there, waiting. And recently, Scott Cawthon mentioned the possibility of a FNaF World 2. I think that would be awesome. I love the first FNaF World. I even still play it occasionally. And I think it would be great to see FNaF World with, hey, maybe even some of the new characters. Can you imagine, Glam Rock Freddy just, jamming out in FNaF World? That would be awesome. But I'm still kind of scared about it. I can't help but, worry that gift boxes will make a return, or some move like it will come back, and it'll make this issue happen all over again, where you can't come up with interesting builds because it's the only real viable option. Thank you for watching. This is my first ever video essay, so I hope you enjoyed, but I am open to hearing any suggestions on how to improve potential future ones. I am kinda sick, so I don't know. At least I'm nasally. I am feeling ill, if you will. So kind of stuffed. It might sound a bit weird because of that, but if you did enjoy anyway, please consider liking and subscribing, because you get to see more of content of mine. Although this is my first video essay, like I said, so I might not do them very often, but yeah. Plus, I also just personally like seeing the funny numbers go up. Haha. Anyway, that's all. So, see you soon, and bye-bye.